The Hezbollah threat is obviously very serious because Hezbollah's arsenal, I think, is an order of magnitude, if not more, greater than Hamas. And if Gaza has taught us one thing, it's that we badly underestimated the strength of these adversaries. If a war begins with Hezbollah, I mean, the war has begun, but if a war becomes full scale, that will put Tel Aviv and Rishon LeZion and every Israeli city in the line of fire. And civilian casualties in Israel will be very high. And the intensity of the war will be not just at the front, but at home for Israelis much higher than what we've seen so far. So nobody should underestimate the seriousness of what Israel is facing. On the other hand, if you'll permit me the analogy, like cancer, you sooner fight it earlier than later. And Hezbollah is a cancer that has been growing and even metastasizing, and it has to be dealt with. Maybe there's a diplomatic outcome where somehow Hezbollah magically retreats north of the Litani River and vacates the border area, and Israelis can come back to Kiryat Shmona and other areas in the north. But that doesn't look like it's going to happen. So Israel is going to have to think very carefully, but it's going to have to gird for the possibility of this war. And this is, what Churchill said about the Battle of Britain. This is not the end, it's not even the beginning of the end, but it might be the end of the beginning. Gaza, the wrapping up of Gaza is perhaps the end of the beginning of this larger three or multi-front war. You asked about Iran. There will never be any long-term peace in the region so long as the Islamic Republic rules Persia. And it's important to distinguish the two because Iran itself is not a natural enemy of the Jewish state. I mean, there's an ancient history of Iranian sympathy for Jews, and Iranian alliance when the Shah was in power with Israel. That only ended in 1979 because the central to the ideological self-conception of Iran's current rulers is the belief that they are, in effect, on a mission from God to destroy the Jewish state. So that is another confrontation that is likely to happen. Now, we have one extraordinary ally in that fight. It's not the United States. It's not the Arab states. It's the Iranian people. We're not 2 years out from the most extraordinary and serious uprising that this regime has experienced, an uprising that was inspired by the brutal mistreatment of one young Kurdish woman. And if you sort of think about the history of Iranian revolts against the regime, they're happening with greater frequency. It was in 2022. It was also in 2019. It was also in 2018. It was in 2009. It was in 1999. This is a massively unpopular regime where sort of seemingly random acts of cruelty by the regime often trigger these revolutionary impulses. So the great question is, are there ways in which the United States or Israel or other people can do more to help the Iranians successfully overthrow their rulers? And that's, I think, the likeliest and most lasting solution we can reach for. It will happen.